But according to the Stanford Latino Entrepreneurship Initiative, Latino-owned businesses have grown by over 34% in the past decade, outpacing the national average. And why do we think that is? And I'm gonna throw that to Pavel with my mic.
I think one of the main reasons is that we are fed up with our experiences in corporate America. There's a lot of data out there that says 8 out of 10 Latino, Latinas in corporate fake it in some way. We assimilate, we suppress parts of our identities, and that shit is exhausting. Often leads to a mental health crisis. I know it did for me. So oftentimes when we hit that rock bottom point, we're just like, I don't want to be here anymore. What do I do? And instead of contributing to someone else's dream, we start to build our own dreams, hence entrepreneurship.
Let's see. No.
Push it off the over here. Just take that one. I'll try to.
Yeah. So what I believe is that to add to what Pavel said, it was that that also we need people owning companies that have the cultural competency to talk to our communities, to talk to our people. So for example, in my industry, there's very little Latino-owned companies, and we have the numbers, and this is just about my industry, but it applies to all industries. There's 4 million Latinos in New York. There's like over 60 million in the country, but when it comes to ownership, it's very little. So what happens is the people that own these companies, corporate and et cetera, they don't have our community's best interests at heart. A lot of times they don't have the cultural competency to understand what we go through or how to communicate with our people. And we get lackluster service, products, and different services because of this. So I think that people are fed up, as my fellow panelists just said, and we have to take these things over and make them for our people and not expect them to understand us.
Exactly. I like that.
Precisely all of that. I think oftentimes we become entrepreneurs by accident just because we're trying to fill our own void, and then we realize that we make something that a lot of other people want too, and then we kind of just do that. And that's been my story, that everything I've ever made has just been because I'm just tired of waiting around, including like literally the book I wrote. Everything is just like, well, I guess I'll do it for me and then make it something that I can offer to others. And because of the world we live in, you can sell the thing and you can exchange the thing. And I just don't think we can help it. I think it's innate because that's how we create the world we want to see.
Well, ditto. That's really it. In my own case, and what I believe, yeah. And for me, it's always been kind of like need first, right? As Kat said, in my own case, I created a solution, and my skin, and for me and my sons. And then my wife said to me, by the way, she's right there. And my wife said to me, she said, there are millions. There have to be millions of guys in America, just like you and the boys. So again, it's need. So I did research, because the reality of it is that in my industry, at least grooming, okay, there were no products, quality products, that were made for men like me and my family. And then the other, again, as they said, the other I would say is freedom. So I think that we're growing our businesses out of need, and then also out of freedom. I mean, let's be real. I mean, there are still societal pillars of colonialism. And once we come up on it, we sit back and we realize, we go, you know what? We've got relationships. So there is a power of community that we have. And I started to learn it at the age of 9, just from, selling newspapers. I grew up in the housing projects, 125th Street, right? 21 stories, 11 apartments a floor. I'm like, there's a lot of customers here. After going door to door, river to river, trying to get a store to hire me. They say, yo, you're too young. So I'm like, yeah, but I need money, right? Holiday period. The bodega owner, Majero. I was like, listen, Majero, I have a lot of customers here. So why don't you get me the holiday trinkets and I'll blow them out? So that's how it started for me. Always at a need, it always stayed with me. But mostly it was a quest for freedom because let's be real, I'm very brown skinned. And growing up, looking at civil rights and going through that experience, watching, learning, I always knew that I had to have my freedom in my own hands.
I love that. I feel like it was Jay-Z that said that like freedom is ownership. Yeah. And so to be able to create, the great Jay-Z, the freedom to create and to own something, I think is really beautiful. And I think that that's the shiny, probably the thing that gets us out of bed as entrepreneurs is that part. But I also know that it takes a lot of sacrifice to like be called to know that you have an answer, a solution to a problem, that you're fed up. Like it takes a lot of sacrifice then to see that vision come to life. And I'm curious if y'all can talk to me about some of the most emotionally challenging parts of this journey and how you stayed resilient. Vladimir, if you want to go.
I always tell people that when you're on these journeys, you know, of course we all want freedom, we all want to do better for our families, but I believe the biggest way to get through those times is you have to have a big why and purpose bigger than money. So one of the ones for me was when, you know, I fought to legalize cannabis. I'm an advocate. I wrote petitions and, you know, picketed and did all these things. Then cannabis legalized and I applied and I had to wait about 3 years before I received my license without knowing how I'm gonna get my next meal, without knowing what's gonna happen. But me knowing that what I fought for was happening, even though it hadn't happened to me, which was for Black and brown and marginalized people to be first to be able to receive these licenses, it was happening, but it just wasn't my turn yet. So that kept me motivated because at least what I fought for was happening, even if it wasn't happening to me yet. So I believe that, you know, you're gonna really be tested when you're doing something that is nuanced, is different, and you're changing things in systems that are already been set up for a long time. But you having a bigger why and purpose than just money and yourself helps you get through these times.
I love that. Kat, you want to go?
I totally feel the same way. I mean, in full transparency, I'm going through that right now. This is just another moment in time where I'm going through one of those pushes because the thing is, like, when you reach a goal, then you have another goal and another goal and another goal, and the more you sacrifice, the more you sacrifice. So if it doesn't work out, you have the stakes just get higher and higher and higher, and you get to a point where you can't opt out because you've already put in so many hours and so much sacrifice into the vision that you realize that you can only go forward or just opt out, and then everything was a waste. But if you are soul-centered and you have your why, then you never feel like giving up is a possibility because then you know the thing will not exist in the world. Then you know that the needle isn't moving forward. And if it's bigger than you, and you know that we're here for a finite amount of time, and you know we have a mission and we go back to where we go back to, then that's what keeps you going. You know, like I wrote a book, but like I didn't write that book with a book deal. I don't come from money. I didn't know anyone in publishing. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I knew I had to write this book because it needed to be born through me and it was bigger than me. And I sacrificed my savings, I sacrificed stability, I sacrificed every ounce and thread of what I thought I should be doing at this age. And then it all came. Like I did it, the publisher arrived, the book, I'm on a book tour right now. That's why I'm here in New York. Like everything just appeared, but I didn't know if I was gonna pay my rent every time. When I was in the thick of editing my second round of the manuscript, I couldn't work. So I had to be writing. And my family thought I was crazy because we've risked too much. They thought we've risked too much for you to get here, only for you to just do this crazy thing. And I'm like, but you don't get it. Like, this is bigger than me. This is for everyone. And I think now they're starting to get it. But it took a long, long, long time. This is like 10 years after I started publishing zines and blogging and putting myself out there. And that's the other part too, is like you have to be patient. You have to be patient and you have to like extract the external validation of it all because the money's not going to come right away, and the people won't get it right away, maybe, especially if you're disrupting systems and you're trying to create something that doesn't, people can't imagine yet because it's so nuanced or so abstract. But then when it comes together, people will be like, damn, thank God you did it, because like now we get it and now we can move it forward, and then the sacrifices were worth it, and then the blessings come, and all of it happens. But you had to stay in the game long enough for, first of all, for God to know that you were true to the mission and that you were going to be the conduit. But then secondly, you need to have the testament. Like, you have to prove that like you were in it for a long time, because then that reward that you get it's in tandem with the sacrifice. So like, you put in 10 years of work, maybe you won't get paid for 10 years, but when you do get paid, you're going to get paid because you earned it by energetically committing to it.
Wow. I think everybody needs to get a round of applause here. 100%. Yeah. Keys to resiliency for me, for mine, is most definitely the why. It's most definitely the why, because the why is the only thing that keeps you going, right? But that why has to be really, really defined, right? So for me, it was for economic freedom. Plain and simple, I want to build a legacy, okay, so that young people who look like me can say, you know what? He did it, I can do it. I want to build a legacy so that my family, okay, can be better off, bottom line. And my children are grown already and successful. But I have little nieces growing up around the country. Parents don't know how they're going to pay for those kids' education. They're brilliant, okay? They need opportunities. So that's my why, in a nutshell. But also I found that in the why that we can't be, so the why also, if we pay attention, will allow us to be flexible as well. So if I'm just doggedly going at this and the market is telling me, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. Hey, you have to be agile as well. So I would also say faith. I mean, I had to realize, so, I'm just gonna be religious, but I'm gonna tell you a scripture that keeps me going, okay? And that is, God said that I'm created in his image and likeness, and therefore I'm to be a co-creator with him. So right then, that hit me. I'm like, okay, so therefore you put it in me to create. So what is it? What is it that I'm here for? And that becomes my why, that holds me. Secondly, I realized, hey, I don't have all the answers. I don't even know where to go. But guess what? You do. And guess what? Everybody in this planet, billionaire, poor man alike, every dude has got to put his pants on one leg at a time. There's nobody who could throw their pants up, do a triple somersault, be in it and glowing, okay? Bottom line. So therefore I know that if they could do it, I can do it. And then coming down to faith, it boils down to sometimes I'm stuck. I am flat out stuck. And I know I've hit a wall. And then I got to get silent, do other things, and wait for my spirit to now give me those. And it's not the whole business plan. It's just the next step or two, right? So, we're, walking by faith. So, and then the other thing, quite frankly, is that I'm just going to tell you, I have a thing about those of us that we spend so much money to wear clothes and to use products that are made for the same people that have been perpetrating us. So we're going to spend 3-4 times what we're supposed to spend, right, to have a European's name on our clothes or on the shoes or on the necklace. And guess what? I want all of us in this information age, what's going to help us all is that we look first for the products that we need, that we look first for people who look like us, who are in our community, who are making it. Okay, you've got literature here, you've got technology here, consumer products here. You follow me? Look for us first. Keep that money flowing, because as you keep that money flowing, guess what? It'll be one of our names on the sponsorship. When it comes down to blessing our community, we won't have to run to Procter & Gamble and these other companies and get on our knees and go, could you please help fund this? The more we fund ourselves, the more we build ourselves, and it just keeps growing and growing and growing.
Thank you. Miguel is just dropping the gems and I'm just trying to keep up. I really like the part that you said about co-creating. I think sometimes we take a passive approach to life, but when that clicks for you, when you realize that you can have an active hand in your happiness, in your legacy, and how your life's shaped, I think that that's amazing. But I want to hear from you, Pavel, as well, and then I have another question.
Yeah. So many mics. No, I mean, +1 on all of those things. I think when you talk about the idea of resilience, we often think that we have to do it alone. You know, this idea of like pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, kind of bullshit. Like, you don't have to do it alone. In fact, here's the problem when you do it alone. As humans, 80% of our thoughts are negative, and 95% of them are repetitive. So it's really easy to just get stuck in this negative thought pattern. Like this idea of like, when was the low moment? Shit, every day. I have a low moment every day, and I didn't realize how negative these thought patterns were until I went to therapy, right? Now, therapy is so inaccessible to so many of us is literally why I created Plural, which is an AI therapist. You put in your journal entry, you click a button, and I'll tell you when you're jumping to conclusions. When you assume the worst is gonna happen. So, like, what I do, honestly, is, I mean, shameless plug, like, I use my app to be like, oh shit, well, you're right, I am jumping to conclusions. I am assuming that I can predict the future even though no one can, right? And even when we do try to predict the future, it's often these worst case scenarios. So I think the difference between all of us up here, as well as people in the crowd, is like, we're doubting ourselves all the time. The only thing is that we push through that doubt and take that leap of faith for ourselves.
I love that. Yes. And I just want to like double tap on the fact that you are disrupting the tech industry. That's crazy. So what steps do you believe are necessary to break into these industries that are a little bit harder for us? And then what steps did you take?
Yeah, so before I launched my own tech product, I was working at TikTok. Before that, I was at Facebook. And I think before in thinking about what to do with your career, I would encourage you to like think about even the products that you use on a daily basis. And don't just assume that like computers are running those, whole companies. Like when I was in college, I was like, you can work at Facebook? I literally thought it was like one computer that was just like doing everything, right? But I often think that we see ourselves as just consumers or users, when in reality, we can have an impact on either those products that we actually love, or we can build something that is specific to our community. So I think having that mindset shift of like not just being users or consumers, but really owners having impact in there or creating something for yourself.
Right, having that vision is important. Okay, Kat, this was for you. In your bio and in your, what you've done is the Goddess Council. And I'm personally I'm stepping back from something that I've created. And my Latinidad really hit me because I'm like, I put all that esfuerzo in it. And now I'm just gonna what do I have to show for it? I already look crazy in front of my parents. I've invested a lot of time, a lot of money. But I think in your journey, you teach us how to walk away from something and potentially that opening the door for your next move. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, this has been coming up a lot during the tour because chapter 2 is all about how I came into architecting, becoming a community architect, and it was all by accident. And I tripped into this community that I was building for myself, and then it became a global wellness brand, and it was like booming during 2020, which was crazy. I burned out because I was trying to help everyone, but I had already given myself the thought that this is what I was a founder, I'm gonna do this forever, and that's it. Like, this is the thing I've created in reality. And then I got to the point where I got so sick that I knew I couldn't do it anymore, and then it all hit me that I had to let go of the thing that I thought would be my thing forever. And that induced so much shame for me because, again, my family doesn't know what I'm doing. I keep taking all these risks. I have a podcast, this community, like, what are you talking about? Everything feels so abstract to them. And then I say, well, all of a sudden, the thing I've been trying to convince you to believe in, I have to let it go. And then it's like, well, there you go. You see, like, this was always an irrational thing. But what I came to realize, it's like, it's a hero's journey, you know, like you learn a lot by failing. And it doesn't mean that you can't try again, but when you try again, now you know what is different. And I think that so often we hold on to things that we've made in reality because of the time we've invested, and we think it has to exist as we see it and as we said, in that form forever, instead of it being an opportunity to pivot. And oftentimes, for me, I knew that I pivoted. The way that it happened for me was so extreme because the signs were there all along, and I refused. Like my ego said no, 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 and so my body shut down on me, and it said, we kept trying to tell you that this wasn't going the right direction, but you kept holding on to this idea. But without that happening, I wouldn't be an author. Without that happening, I wouldn't have gone through like my Eat, Pray, Love journey, which I've been on for the past 2 years. You know, like I wouldn't have realized that I was in a marriage that wasn't functioning for me. I wouldn't have, you know, leaned into the things that made me me. And now that all of that happened and I tapped into my soul, like the real mission of my life, not the company, but me, the person that is going to be doing a lot of different things, I realized like I had to let it go. But I had to also overcome the shame of what it looked like to fail publicly. And that was something I wasn't prepared for, and it was very scary. But also, like, once you get over the public failure and once you realize that you can say, did it, don't want to do it anymore, on to the next, you realize that you can do it over and over and over. And that is inevitable. We're aging, we're getting older, we learn more, we have curiosities. Like, we're not going to always do the same thing all the time. And so I think there's something to be said about knowing when to let something go and understanding that it is not an innate failure. And admittedly, when I was trying to sell the book, I had an agent tell me that I needed to rewrite my manuscript because I talk about my failures in the book. And she said, you're not popular enough or famous enough for anyone to care to buy a book by somebody that they don't know who's telling them how they failed. And I was shattered because I was like, again, is this a moment where the universe is telling me that I was crazy for thinking that I could do this thing? And then I was like, no, I think we're all waiting for people to talk about what they did and that they failed at so that we can learn from it, and also to just see acts of resilience. And so I said, I don't care how long it's going to take for this book to come out, but I refuse to modify this into like a perfect cookie cutter little book, because then I'm not doing the thing that I need to do, which is share the journey and share the story. And then I found a publisher who was like, no, that's exactly what we need to see. And now that I'm on this quest of like uncovering more and sharing more about my story, I'm like, oh my God, I think everybody was just kind of like, the people who are inspired by those moments have just been waiting for like the green light to also share how they have failed, because it's not failing. It's not actually failing. It's just a moment of, it's just like a lesson and a learning moment. We're all just like, okay, cool. Like, it's kind of like a cool person's club. Like, what did you fail at? What did you fail at? Like, what did you try to do? And what did you learn from that? And I think that that is ultimately like a flex. Like, I think it's a flex to fail.
Such a flex. You make it look good.
Oh, period.
Okay, Miguel, you touched on it a little bit, but in a crowded marketplace and in a place that has a lot of historical, very funded brands, how are you finding and connecting with your right audience?
Okay, well, first, it's interesting. I look for people like me and my sons. So that was first. So I first started out, my wife has a business expo every year. So I use that, and then going out to facilities for me, cigar lounges and barbershops, to just test my product, to get feedback from the marketplace. And I did this for over a year, okay? And then now it's the messaging. So some other unique ways. Listen, we used to sell in Whole Foods store, Macy's. I went out and found the opportunity to pitch retailers, to pitch people who can carry my products. And now, remember I was saying about resilience and being able to, to kind of twist and turn when you need to. And then now it's just become apparent to me that the most creative way to grow my business is just going to be direct to you. We're in the information age, okay? So people of color, first and foremost, we over-index in social media watching, in commercial watching, in TV watching. So that means that, hey, and we over-index means that we do it more than the general population, right? We also, on a per capita basis, have more smartphones than the general population. So now the deal is, how do I reach my people where they are, revamping it, the language, the emails, all the touch points, finding touch points with the right messaging to let you all know that we're here, and giving and asking for you guys to give us a shot, to trust us. And then the other thing is just making sure that you back up what you say, that your products do what they do. But I would say most importantly is that I've created a suite of products because I am the customer. You see, I like to dress nice. I like quality clothes. I'm a cigar aficionado. I know what they spend money on, but yet I see that when it comes to skincare, that they use garbage. And the fact is they use stuff that's not even made for them. That Procter & Gamble and Gillette, they'll pay a model that looks like me, making you think that it was made for you, but it wasn't made for you. So what I've done is I've used ingredients, I've combined skincare and grooming into one. So it's more than just shaving, more than just beard care. And again, in the prior things, and I wanted to do something to benefit the health of our community. When I looked at the ingredients that were in most of these store-bought products, parabens, phthalates, things like that, these things are called, they lead to acute poisoning. So you see people, like you may not have had cancer in your family, all of a sudden your mother has cancer. You're like, how did that happen? Right? Your uncle dies of cancer. How did that happen? Well, it's called acute poisoning. It's called taking, these little ingredients that get into your system over decades. And then you wake up and boom, there's cancer, right? Or something like that. ED, things like that. So those things were very important to me, and I wanted to impact it. And most importantly, I want the marketplace to know, and I want our people to know, that there is a quality product out there, a quality suite of products that is healthy, first class, and that is made especially for you. Because men of color deserve better than good enough. We deserve the absolute best. And I want to provide a brand and have the communication, thank you, and communicate to us that through our ethnicity, through our melanin, through our culture, that through grooming, that we can own our look and own our energy, straight up.
I love that that's what your brand stands for. It's the love of your people, love of your community. But I'm also curious, how are you connecting with your audiences, with your app, with your consumer?
Wait, sorry, how am I connecting with the consumer? So therapy is such a delicate topic. Mental health is a delicate topic. So what I did was I kind of tricked people into talking about mental health by starting around career conversations. So what I do is I started a podcast called Quien Tú Eres, which is in the top 2% of all shows globally, where the mission is to redefine professionalism, and I actually talk about authenticity versus professionalism. And by using professionalism and code switching as kind of like the Trojan horse, people just eventually start opening up about so many other things, because work is so integrated in so many parts and aspects of our lives. So you start asking somebody about like why they code switch, and they start talking about financial trauma, the pressure to succeed, all these other things. So I found that as a really interesting and creative way to connect with the community, because it's often, as I said before, like 8 out of 10 of us fake it at work. So something like extremely relatable across generations, something that I found really successful. So one is like putting that topic out there, but with that podcast, in sharing people's stories that often don't get told, because there is so much insecurities around talking about our challenges around work and financial independence and all these kind of things. A lot of sharing of those stories, you instantly build a connection with the person that you're talking to and the community that you're sharing it to. So creating something that other people have said here, something around like a mission, something beyond just money, is really important, building a community and connecting with an audience.
Great. Vladimir, coming to you, you're in the cannabis industry, still very regulated, a lot of stigma. How are you building trust and finding consumers?
Oh, that's a really loaded question, because of the industry that I'm in is so nuanced. And I think that a big reason why is, I'm gonna get a little vulnerable here and go into my story of why I'm able to do that. So I've been in the cannabis industry for 25 years. Cannabis has only been legal in New York for 3.5 years. So what that means is that for the first about 16, 17 years, I was in what we like to call the legacy market, but it was really the illicit or the black market, whatever they want to call it. So, I grew up in Harlem, Uptown, and 139th from Broadway. When I grew up in the 80s and the 90s, it was like a really violent, hostile place. And, there was a lot of other harder substances being sold at an alarming rate. And I started consuming cannabis at a young age, maybe like 12, 13 years old. Now I look back, maybe for mental health reasons to escape the reality I was dealing with. And I remember when I was 16, we always had to go up to Washington Heights Inwood to get the better cannabis up there because, like I said, that wasn't available in my neighborhood. So me, 16, my entrepreneur brain said, you know what, I'm gonna buy an ounce of weed, and if it doesn't sell, I'll smoke it, but at least I won't have to go back and forth. So ever since then, never had a job again and been in the cannabis industry ever since. But back then, without having the science or the knowledge, I just knew that what I was doing, even though the law wasn't agreeing with me, I knew that I never met anybody that overdosed from cannabis. I knew that. I never saw anybody have any negative effects. So I knew that I was just, medicating my community and etc. But the government didn't agree with me. So in between that journey till I started my company, Happy Monkey, about 7, 8 years ago, I got arrested 22 times and I did about 4 years in prison because, they didn't agree. So the reason I say that is that I had that experience, so I understood that side of the cannabis industry, our community. Then, fast forward, I started a consumption lounge by Times Square. Me and my friends were like, friend went to Holland, Amsterdam, saw that whole cafe movement that they had going on over there, people sharing, and we were like, oh, we had the real estate, we had the cannabis, so let's do like gatherings and see how it goes. It went really well. And then we started doing these events once a month, once a week, and then 7 days a week at our height, 200-300 people a night, till Forbes called us the Studio 54 Cannabis in about 2019, before cannabis was legal. But now the information changes. We became the de facto place for like cannabis conferences to come and hang out. By default, also started getting access to go to cannabis conferences, which is speaking about the legalities, about the medicinal benefits, and etc. So now I'm getting this knowledge, and I'm like, well, that's the route I have to take because now there's something bigger on the horizon. And from there, I remember that I went to a cannabis conference and I heard somebody talking about stocks, and I said, oh, there's stocks? It's like, oh man, these people just been arresting us. I thought this was all the way, left. And then I started seeing that there's like something bigger on the horizon. What happened was cannabis came on the bill to be legalized in New York. At the time, Cuomo was in office, and he was leaning towards a bill that was not really equitable, was more like highest bidder to the billionaires and etc. No social equity, no home grow. Me and my partners had some influence. We started a petition. We got thousands of signatures, and we got hundreds of thousands of people around the country to repost it. And we moved the needle along with other advocates, and we were able to get the most equitable bill in the country is the one in New York, because in other states, they alienate people like me that had cannabis arrests and they don't let them participate. New York's the first one to make it a priority for you to be able to be prioritized if you had a record. So now this happens. We have to start evolving with the industry. So what we did was we started we didn't do the speakeasy parties anymore. We started partnering with institutions that had never associated themselves with cannabis. So our first event was with Bobby Van Steakhouse on Wall Street. Then after that, we followed up with a partnership with the Van Gogh immersive experience. Sold tickets on Ticketmaster. First night, like 1,200 people. Another night, 1,500 people. Won a Clio, got a lot of notoriety. Came out like in New York Times, Bloomberg, NASDAQ, every news outlet. So now we're breaking ceilings because we're destigmatizing cannabis during this process. And the moral of the story, so I don't have to take you out through every little detail, is that then I was put through a big test that tested my moral compass and my why and my purpose. My dream came true. I finally received this license. Now there's business involved, there's money involved. So now people are like, where are you gonna open up, Vlad? Are you gonna open up in Times Square, Penn Station, Soho, Tribeca? I'm like, no, I'm probably gonna go back up to where my community's at, Watch Heights, Inwood. I said, oh man, you're gonna waste your brand. Those people don't have any median income. There's too much illicit cannabis up there. It's not gonna go good for you. You do so well, you can open down here, you can do well for yourself. And long story short, just opened up the first legal licensed dispensary in Washington Heights Inwood history. Tomorrow's our ribbon cutting because I'm out to prove that you can be morally correct, do right for your community, and be profitable, because our people do have the income and they will come and support, but only with somebody like me that has the cultural competency to understand what their needs are. So I feel like my journey of speaking in every cannabis conference in the country and getting all this knowledge, now coming back to my community and my people and be able to give it to them in a digestible, layman's way is what's gonna separate what my brother over there was saying, to make sure that we change the narrative. And the next time they think about investment or opening places, they see value in our people and value in our communities, because we have to show them how to do it, because they will never understand us. We have to turn pain into power and take over these industries and make sure that we're at the helm.